People, what's up? What's up? What's up? I hope you're doing good. This is your man D Ross, Dwayne Ross of Dwayne-Ross.com, and I am so happy. I am the author of the book No More Crumbs from the Table, celebrating you, discovering your tag, your talent, your ability, your gift, and putting it to work in the earth. I want to say thank you to everyone that showed up at the writers workshop today. It was from 10 a.m. to actually 4:30. We actually had a Q&A that just lasted like almost forever. Shout out to my lady out there, Miss Erica Ward, who is the CEO of Divine Concept Group. She's my sister from another mister. We've been riding for many, many, many years. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. Tracy, thank you for showing up. Miss Gatton, you're here in the chat as well. And then, you guys have any questions? I got a really cool guest coming in today, and man, he's gonna bring the fire. He's gonna bring the heat. He's got a lot of stuff to go on. But I want to remind you that if you have a book in your heart, you got to get it out, right? You got to get the book out. This book is called The Alarm is Sounding, and that's from Miss Terry Hines. She's on the way of getting her book out. This other book, Almost Not Born, another one of my clients, getting their books out, making sure. How about the teachers for black students? You know what I mean? White teachers, black students, culturally responsive. This is happening with Miss Dr. Denise. And of course, you guys know about Miss Danello. She came out with her double shots of redemption. And who can forget the woman in the wall? These are all people who have decided to work with me in the self-publishing world. So don't forget, you have a story on the inside of you, and you should be writing your story. And so today we had the writers workshop, which went into the details. We had Ryan Jenkins, we had Tanya Liverman, we had Dr. Rhonda Ross, and then of course me, Dwayne Ross, and a couple of other extra people that kind of came in just to share about their book journey. But today I have an author who is really, 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 really ready to give you some nuts and bolts, and then of course drop some of those bombs, right? And you guys know what I call it, platinum nuggets. And these platinum nuggets are those nuggets that's going to help you move from just thinking about doing something to getting it done. And as you know, I'm all about the action that you take in order to get what you want in your hand. And so we're going to ask you, if you have a comment, put it in the comment section. If you're on Facebook, put it in the chat section. If you're on YouTube Live, just put it in the comments as well. But we're going to bring in my man tonight. We have Mr. Yaba Baker. He's coming on in. I'm going to bring him into the stream. How
I'm
you
doing,
doing, my man? You doing well over there?
I'm
What's
doing fantastic. I'm
happening?
doing fantastic, brother.
Fantastic. Just like me world. Let me bring us over here, take up a little bit more space. Now, just like me world, when I saw that .com, of course, when I saw that, I was thinking, what is Just Like Me Incorporated? We had a brief discussion about what, 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks ago,
Hmm.
and I was like, I got to get you in on the show. You agreed to come tonight, so thank you to Dr. Sabrina Dent. She's also an author. I did not do this book, but she's the author of African Americans and Religious Freedom. Dr. Sabrina Dent. If you guys want a copy of that, let me know, because that is free to you, so you can learn about religious freedom, because it's not just about how you worship, but it's how everybody worships. But Yaba,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
my man, we had a conversation that was supposed to be like a 10 or 15-minute intro,
Mhm.
turned into almost like a 2 hour, like an hour and a half conversation,
Indeed.
because we both have a passion for making lives better for people, number one. But then there's this extra layer that we have in reference to working with young people and helping
Hmm.
them expand and see themselves in the world. And so I brought you on tonight because I wanted to make sure that people get an opportunity to not only meet you as a CEO, and not only meet you as a person that wrote a book, an author, but someone that has a heart for our young people seeing themselves. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to let you talk to us and tell us what is this Just Like Me all about.
Well, just like me, started out of my own pain and growing up in inner city DC when we were the murder capital of the United States. And I was trying to figure out the best way to give back and put kids on the right track. And through my research, I realized that a lot of kids in the inner city, self-esteem is really low. And I was different because I had a mom who built me up, I had grandmother who built me up, and a lot of my friends didn't have that same kind of thing. So I started trying to figure out what could I do? What could I do to contribute? And I realized when you know your history and you know where you come from, that gives you a certain sense of pride or self-esteem, and studies prove that. And so I created my first series of book called the Just Like Me series that took uh, teaching Black history from ancient Africa, how we create mathematics and science and architecture, all the way up until how we created inventions that changed America. And because of that, that took off. We did interviews on CBS News, BET, we were on Upscale Magazine. We were like 70 different places all over the country, did a book tour. So it really took off. And then the second piece to that was making sure that kids saw a representation of themselves in stories. And so
Mm.
we wanted to represent kids as princesses, as superheroes, as action heroes. So that's kind of the company itself is teaching Black history and creating fairy tales in the form of cartoons, movies, and books that they can see themselves and be proud of who they are.
Man, that is so powerful because number one, seeing yourself in a position of authority, a position of power,
Hmm.
hearing your history and understanding that we were kings and queens before we were in shackles and beat. You know that we had our own industries, and we brought those industries to this particular place called America,
Hmm.
where we actually built the infrastructure of most of the almost if not all corporations. I mean, it's so much rich history that is lost in translation because people start with slavery
Yep.
as opposed to going pre-slavery and helping us understand who we are. And I love it that you said that you help reflect, to kids like, hey, I'm going to teach you history, but I'm going to teach you through this reflection.
Yep.
Talk about how you came up with the concept of that reflection when you said, hey, when you look in the mirror or you look into the puddle, I always think of The Lion King. There's a scene, right, where the cub is trying to figure
Hmm.
himself out and
Hmm.
he's not sure. And then Rafiki, the takes him to the water and he's like, look into the water. He sees his own reflection and
Hmm.
he's like, I don't see anything. He said, look harder.
Right.
And when he looked harder, he saw the king. Talk
Hmm.
about how we can look harder and see the king
Well, I think when you talk about representation
or queen,
matters,
of course.
we gotta look a little deeper about what that means. So when a kid is 5 or 6 or 7, they're looking to see themselves in positive light. But what usually happens is, and this is studies have been done on this, Black kids, when they start reading books, looking at TV, don't see a lot of positive representations of themselves. So they begin to feel like, well, maybe Black isn't the thing I should be. And you often see sometimes kids who are younger, who are Black, will say, well, I don't want to be Black anymore. And that's not because they don't like their Black skin. It's because they haven't seen themselves as the hero. They haven't seen themselves as a princess. They haven't seen themselves in the action. Now you see more of that now. It's still not enough, but we have to instill that early because that's where self-esteem begins to be formed. Usually, there's a psychiatrist says that at age 3, Black kids have already recognized the difference between Black and white, and they realize white has positives and negative, and Black has negatives at 3. So we got to start early with this.
You know, this is interesting because I had another guest on my show, and his daughter was about, I think he said she was 5, and he brought her to Princess and the Frog.
Hmm.
And she said, Daddy, I don't like that princess. And he said, well, what's wrong, honey? She said, because all the movie, she's a frog. The entire movie, they show a glimpse of her being the princess, but the rest of the movie is this frog, right? And then to get back to being a princess, she had to go to this shady character.
Right. Right.
So I love the fact that you help us see the psychology that's behind that, because I think I'm pretty sure it was James Baldwin who talked about this idea that kids will look in through like in a store back in the day. They had the big windows and stuff like
Hmm.
this, and they were little kids, and they would look for themselves through the looking glass and not see it. And so from what I'm hearing from you, it's like it's the same concept. Like,
Yep.
where am I in this story, right?
Hmm.
And so when they do those reports, they said, "Oh, they hate black." No, they're like, "I hate this thing because I didn't know it." And then the reality is, I didn't see myself in the mirror until I was 3, 5, 6, 7 years old, and didn't even realize I was black,
Right.
right?
And I
So
think
talk about that.
that's I think parents have to really understand how important it is to give your kid representations that make them feel good about who they are, because they're seeing things all over the place. They're seeing things on TV. They're seeing things in commercials, little subtle things. I was showing one of my friends this cartoon was about animals, but the lead animal was white and all the followers were brown, and that animal is not usually white. So I was like, wow, even in animal cartoons, we still got the color thing going. So not to make everything about race in that sense, but the thought process has to be, I gotta make sure my child sees themselves, because I don't want them to build an inferiority complex about being black. And I need to know they come from greatness. They come from kings and queens, which is why I did Just Like Me series, because you start them off at 3 or 4 with a coloring book that discusses where we created math, how we created uh, first architecture. We created medicine, the art of diagnosis, examination, the whole process you go to the doctor. The first ink and paper. All those things are created in Africa by people who look like us. So you start them off early with that, then follow with the storytelling with characters that look like them. You can't lose.
Well, it's interesting because some people say, "Well, you're too black. That's too black of a subject. That subject is all about black people." When the reality is, it's all about all of us, because if you could help me see myself as a little kid, maybe when I get old enough that I can have a gun in my hand to shoot someone that looks like me, I may not feel the same way. As
And
a matter of fact, maybe if I don't do that, I might just not tear up my neighborhoods and all that other stuff. So there's a reciprocal situation with feeling good about who you are. Before the show, we talked about how, having this self esteem. You talked
mhm,
about this idea of low and high self image, self worth, and we get our worth from what we believe we are, right?
yes.
Or what people have said that we are. And I think about a little kid who's jumping around. I can think about my grandson Gabriel, because I could talk about him real quick, because he was recently, I was in his space, and it's this whole idea he's so rambunctious, and it's like, sit down somewhere, go sit down, be quiet, right? As
Hmm.
opposed to recognizing that energy and redirecting it into something positive. Tell us about this idea of bullying because they have low self esteem, or committing suicide because they have low self esteem. Whereas with your books, just like me, you're giving them something to build them up. So when they get to those ages, they see greatness in themselves because they can believe that they were equal or
And that's a
even
big
better.
subject you just brought up right there too,
Heck yeah.
because our black boys get labeled quicker for normal things. And so rambunctious, what do you want him to do? He's high energy. He's going to run around. He's a boy. I mean, and girls are high energy too. So we got to start with recognizing our kids aren't bad at the beginning. That's the first thing. And understanding that, let's make sure that we mold these kids in a way where we direct that energy, where we direct that energy to be positive. So obviously, you want to give them things to read, like my books and other black authors, to give them a full sense of who they are. But then at the same time, let's make sure that we are advocates for our kids, and we're advocates for not putting them in special ed because they've been deemed a troublemaker. Advocates for them if they're deemed slower than the other kids. When they're not really slower, they just might learn a little differently. So it's really a totality of looking at things a little differently about our kids that include books like mine, but also changing the mindset about who our kids are. And I want to touch on one thing that you mentioned about, maybe I won't put a gun in my hand. Well, the thing about race is interesting because if you teach Black history, it helps both white people and Black people because part of the reason we have racism is because they believe a lot of stereotypes that are not true. So we teach them actually the real history of who Black people are. It'll erase those stereotypes and it'll actually make race relations better, not worse. So I find the whole idea that that's too Black or we can't talk about that because we get we don't feel that way about white history. We tell that to
All right,
everybody.
wait, wait. You know, I told you I'm gonna have to slow you down on those some of those curves, bro.
Man.
Cause see, this is again what we see from systemic racism, right? Because systemic racism wants them to feel inferior. Systemic racism wants to look at it from you're not worthy, you're worth less,
Hmm.
you're not equal. Like you said, where in the world do you even see white, full white animals with just no color whatsoever? I mean, usually that's what makes them like amazing, right? Because the
Right.
colors
Different or
is over
unique.
here,
Yeah.
stripes is over here, and this hair color and all this stuff. I mean, try going to Galapagos Island and finding just like a white bird. It's just
Right.
probably not. It's probably impossible. I bet it's probably impossible. But let's talk about this idea because I mentioned in the intro, you're an advocate,
Hmm.
right? For youth. Like I'm an advocate for young people. I work with people coming out of foster care and exiting out of the foster care system. I've been behind bars with young people to help get them to think differently so that they don't continue, recidivism and staying, incarcerated. I talked to a 14-year-old murderer, so I do understand that mindset that moves them into those spaces is not just their fault.
Mm.
It's our society. There was a song a long time ago by Janice Ian. It's called Society's Child. And in it, she said, I learned the truth. It was another song she did. It's called 17. I learned the truth at 17 that life was made for beauty queens.
Mm.
And this is a white woman who is Jewish who said the way she learned it is because she didn't see herself. She didn't see no worth. You just mentioned something, like you said, that's real powerful. And again, it's not about race, but race relations would be better if we saw some equality and equity, not just equality, but
Yep.
equity,
I agree.
and we allowed these conversations to happen. So I'm thankful that you found a way to do it. Now, you said you started with a cartoon, like a coloring book. So take us through how Yaba decided that and then moved it into the book world,
Okay.
the children's book world.
So um, let's start with the where the purpose came from. The purpose came from at age 14, my first friend was murdered. And I had somebody get murdered every year, and sometimes two or three people per year until I was 20. So by the time I got to my 12th grade year, I didn't really think I was going to live past my 12th grade year. I thought I would be in a box somewhere. So getting to Hampton was a blessing in all in of itself. And then getting to Hampton, I still had to hold though. I still had to hold the pain from people being murdered, and people still being murdered. My first semester, my friend Desi got murdered that I went on a trip with. Later that year, a friend of mine, Sadiqa, she got shot in the head for witnessing the murder. Then I get home, going to my sophomore year, a friend from church gets shot up in a drive-by right before I went back to school. So I'm now in this place where I have this oasis that's Hampton, but at home, people are dying that I love. And so it really left a big hole. By the time I got to probably 19, 20, I wanted to die. I didn't want to be here no more. And so it was a big, I was really walking around really angry and I could flip off at any moment. And so the pivotal moment was this altercation I had, and the guy said, "Go get his gun." I said, "Go get your gun. I'll wait for you." And my girlfriend at the time lost her mind when we got in the house. She was like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you talking all crazy?" I said, "If I die, man, I die." And she was like, "Are you serious right now?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm dead serious." And she began to explain to me about my mom, what happened to my mom, and some of the kids I started mentor to. And so I decided, you know what? She actually said, take all that stuff. I don't know what's going on with you, but you need to figure it out and do something with it. And so I decided to find a way to make a difference. And when I realized, when I studied other cultures, because you always hear about Black people, why can't we do what other cultures do? Why are we always the one killing each other? So when I started doing my studies about it, all those cultures know their history. Their
Hmm.
history binds them. It's what they went through, how they got over things, how they came together. They have all that to draw on. So they pull together versus pulling apart. So I thought, well, maybe if we can start teaching our history to our kids at 5, 6, and 7, we can begin to build that bond of we should work together, not apart, because we created this. When we worked together before, we created pyramids. We created mathematics. We created, actually the Washington Monument is an African monument. Really, they duplicated the obelisk. So all these things we did when we bound together. So I thought let's start there. Let's start with the youngest ones and grow them up on our history, and maybe that would change some things.
Yeah, Chancellor Williams said, he had a book called Stolen Legacy, right? I believe it's Chancellor Williams.
I
And
read
in
that
that
book.
book, he talked about all these different monuments. And Dr. Oshawa Kwesi used to do these. He would come into the city and show people, listen, that right there, what you're seeing was from Africa. And then he would take them back to that particular space in Africa. He would do these pilgrimages and show people, here is the original. You think it's supposed to be at the Vatican, but no, it wasn't at the Vatican. Here's the original space. And so, again, Stolen Legacy, they came before Columbus. Those two books, when you look at those two books, they give you some insights on how this establishment took all this richness, this beautiful stuff that people had accomplished, and then quenched it across the continents and in other countries. And you just stated that how in these other countries they have a connection to their history, but here in America they start our history books
That's
with
slavery.
slavery, right? They push us down the slavery aisle. I remember even being in seventh grade, finally figuring out that Egypt was actually in Africa. Because they talked about
Dwayne,
Egypt like it was this other place until they showed the map, and then they couldn't lie because it was there. But then I found out from recently that even the size of the map has been a lie
right?
because they could take the whole America and slice it and put it in the top part of Africa,
Africa,
not even
exactly.
the whole continent. So just talk to us, brother, about this whole miseducation of the Negro that happened with Carter G. Woodson. Thank God for him. That happened, and even in our history books in schools and education systems. And it's amazing to me that people have PhDs in education, and nothing against PhDs, but they still teach the same negative stuff. Talk to us about what we need to do in order to change the narrative when it comes to this.
All right, so I'm gonna start with my few stories like yours. So I'm in fifth grade, and this is a real story. So I'm sitting there, and we're going to the same five black people that we go over every single
Every
year,
single
every
year.
every single year. And I'm thinking to myself, do we only have 5 people? Is this it? And that was a real question. I said we had to do more than this, and no one could really answer that question. And my mom is a real big historian. She's a teacher, so she started bringing things home like Stolen Legacy. It was a couple other books that she brought home. She had me read. And I was in class reading one of these books, and I realized Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean didn't create that.
No.
It's like because if you look at it, they have pyramids that size of 45-story buildings. You think they figured out a squared plus b squared equals c squared? They might have figured that out. This is so ridiculous. This is like I cannot believe they sold this stuff for so long, and we kept buying it. The other story is just like I get frustrated because us as Americans, Black Americans specifically, we have a resistance sometimes to going to our history, and it's almost like you got to prove that we are correct in our history when there's so much evidence that is there. You mentioned Egypt, so I got into a discussion when I was doing a book. I started doing books in college. I started doing my research in college, and one of the guys in the architecture department is a white guy. He was disputing what I say. He said Egypt, and it's not even in Africa; it's in the Middle East. And I was like, yeah, what continent is the Middle East, by the way? Let's go through them. That's not one of the 7 continents. You know that, right? He was like, oh, well, yeah, that's true, but still the Middle East. I said, no, the Middle East does not exist. They created that to not say Africa. So let's not, let's, and that's part of what I'm saying about educating both sides because it should not be a battle about things that are obvious. Egypt is on the equator. It's like literally one of the hottest places on the planet. And so there is no SPF anything during that time period. So if they wasn't black by 5, they would have been after 5 because they'd have been in the heat all the time. So it's about re-educating in a way where we can get our kids to understand they come from greatness. They are not, even though slavery, and this is another thing I want to refocus on how slavery is looked at too. We should be proud of people who got through slavery. They endured more than anybody on the planet. Chattel slavery is one of the worst kinds of slavery in the history of man. Our ancestors got to a point where we put somebody in the presidency seat of our complexion. That is an amazing feat to be a slaves in a country, to create Obama and Will Smiths and Oprahs and things. It is an amazing feat to do that. And we should respect that. And I saw Sabrina's comment in there about advocating for children. And that's why I created my program, that 8-week program, to help kids critically think, because I need them to understand who they are and where they, or what God put inside of them.
This is really cool. I had Oren Checkmate. Dang, I can't think of his last name real quick. But Oren was here, and he talked about the same thing, the strategy of making moves. Right in life, people tend to we tend to make moves as checker players
Yep,
here
not
in
chess.
our society, not chess players. Chess players, offense, defense. You have to know where you're going before you go. You have to
Mm-hmm.
think you're moving, and you have to not only think your move, but you think your opponent's move. Right,
Yep.
as opposed to checkers, it's waiting for reaction. And that's one of the things that we've been really, really, really good at, right? Reacting to what's going on, reacting to George Floyd, reacting to Breonna Taylor, reacting to all these different things. And I just recently watched the movie about Fred Hampton, right? But I posted about Fred Hampton about 5 years ago, and I remember having a conversation with somebody who didn't even know like he existed, and I
Wow.
was thinking, wow, we don't even know modern day people who have endured. And when we think about it, it's the young people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you don't hear about Malcolm at 55. You hear Malcolm at 32,
Mm-hmm.
going to 38. You hear MLK 21 to 35 or 38. You hear, Fred Hampton 21. You hear, these people in our historical, our historical time frame who have been assassinated for just asking people to think differently and unite together against a system of oppression.
Yep.
And you said something that's real powerful, and I'd like you to back up a little bit more and expand it because, you talk about the fact that we should be proud about those who endured slavery, whereas
Mm-hmm.
many people shun that
Yep.
conversation, hide that conversation, think it was like, oh God, that was bad. We have that in our history. They don't even talk about their great great grandmother who made it through to the other side. Man, talk about how that informs you and then how it informed you to start your company. And then, of course, the characters in your book.
Well, our background should always be celebrated because, okay, being a slave is not something people want to be, obviously. But when you look at the system they set up, I think people don't take enough time to look at how it happened. When you take somebody, you kidnap somebody. Imagine somebody kidnapped you from here, and you were with people initially, and they brought you, then they separated you. Then they put these really oppressive rules, and they put you with people with different languages, so you couldn't even communicate anymore. So now, when you have a kid, they take your kid away from you, so you can't pass on your legacy. So when you look at the system they created to beat us down, to strip everything from us, and the ability to piece it back together over time, that in of itself shows you that God is real. In addition to that, the strength of us is real. Because the reason why we were so community oriented back in the day, because we had to be. Because your kid might get taken somewhere, but they might bring a new kid into your group. You raise who's there. That's why we had the neighborhood where everybody could spank you, because that was how we raised kids back then, because you didn't know who was going to get taken, who was going to be sold off, any of that stuff. So we got to begin to respect the path that we got here. Now, obviously, we don't want to go backwards. We don't want to celebrate being in chains or anything, but you got to respect it and understand without them, we're not here. Now, the way my books play into that is I want to our kids to be so excited about who they are, understanding exactly how they got here, the strength it took, the ingenuity. And a lot of times it's made out we're made out to be like we were let go. We were freed. Somebody gave us something. We fought for every single inch we got. Nobody gave us nothing. And I'm so tired of hearing that thought process because here's on the other side. So at some point, did this country say, "Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. We shouldn't put y'all as slaves. We were wrong. Let's not do that anymore." They never did that. They fought us even to this day. We have Black Lives Matter happen this summer. Get gas, rubber bullets, all kind of crazy stuff. They rushed the Capitol, and it's like kid
Brother,
gloves.
don't even. Oh,
Let me walk you down the steps. Let's take selfies.
yeah.
It's like, what is
Let's
going
stop
on right
and
now?
get you some lunch because I think it's too cold out here.
Right? This is
Help you with your
crazy. So
jacket.
so my goal is part of the doing the books is in a way teaching critical thinking as well, because we start teaching your history and it doesn't add up. You gotta say, wait a minute now. So if Columbus discovered America, you mean we created mathematics? We built a pyramid that was 45 stories high, was the tallest building up until 1311. Now it was built in 4000 BC, but it was the tallest building until 1311. But we couldn't get on a boat and go across the water. We couldn't figure out the ocean. That makes no sense. And so critical thinking
Yeah.
through the books, starting at 5 with Just Like Me series, making sure you show the image of yourself gives them the foundation to feel like, you know what? Let me think about this for a second. That doesn't make sense. Let me not follow that dumbness that somebody else is doing. I'm not going to follow that because I know who I am. And
Yeah,
that's where
yeah.
it comes
I
from.
need to slow you down on that too because part of that self-esteem we talked about, again, seeing ourselves in what we in our world as contributors. Um, I love how you just said how people need to realize it wasn't like, hey, you know what, we're sorry, let's let you free, right? And as you said, even today, we're still getting the first woman to do this and the first person to do that and the first whatever because all these systems were in place to continually keep us quenched, not allow us to move forward. We had the Jim Crow laws, and as Michelle Alexander, I think she says, we got the new Jim Crow, right? And
Yep.
the new Jim Crow has these other systems that certain people just seem like they just think it's going to disappear. But it was, I think it was, as a matter of fact, I believe it was a real powerful statement about, power will not succeed power
Mm-mm.
without bloodshed, right? And that was spoken many many years ago, but it hasn't changed. And then we just saw, like you said, people were able to go over the wall, through the woods to grandma's house. They were able to
Walking.
go in Nancy Pelosi's office,
Put your feet up.
put your feet up, take pictures,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Selfies. Everybody like
Even
this.
the response was like way, 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 way too slow. So here we are. We're in 2021, still grappling with 2020 with a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And even in a pandemic, we have to think, is it a pandemic because of our history with America, right? Because of
Mm-hmm.
Tuskegee
Tuskegee. Mm-hmm.
and bad blood and that type of thing. So, how do we reconcile that with this critical thinking? Because I think that's where, you started. You said, the critical thinking allows people to question and then question it again because sometimes you got to question where's your information coming from because they might tell you in a way that sounds scholastic and sounds researched but it's really rehearsed.
Right.
So talk to us about how you help young people think critically, make different choices once they come to better conclusions.
So my program is called Just Like Me Outreach, and it's an 8-week program. And what we do is we try to talk to teenagers about critical thinking, specifically in inner city areas, but it can benefit any teenager. Actually, it really benefit any adult as well. What we try to do is, teenagers don't want to hear lectures, so we don't go in and lecture. We go in and talking to them and asking questions, and we ask leading questions that we already know the answers to. And so a good example is I'll ask about Africa. I said, "What do you guys hear about Africa?" And I said, "We hear like it's destitute out there, and they hungry, they don't have no water in our houses." I said, "Okay, so that's what you see all the time, right? So is that all of Africa?" Yeah, pretty much. So then I show them beaches in Africa. I show them cities in Africa. I say, "So where's this at?" That's probably the Bahamas. I said, "That's not. That's Africa. That's Ghana or that's South Africa." I'll show them somewhere where I was like, "So that's actually countries in Africa. So what you thought was true isn't really true." And so we take into a series of things about school and education, about what you see and watch. One of my favorite examples is talking about hip hop and gangster rap. I'm a big lover of hip hop, but I'm not a lover of gangster rap. And the reason I love gangster rap, one, record labels choose who to put in front of you.
Yep.
We think they worked hard, they hustled, and they did, but that's not the reason why they're in front of you.
Hmm.
Somebody in a boardroom, mostly who don't look like us, decide to put them on the radio. And I asked them, I said, "So let me ask you a question. Does violence and sex sell?" "Oh, yeah, of course." Yeah. I was like, "Are you sure?" "Oh, yeah, sure, sure." I say, "So let me ask you a question. Do you know the words they're saying the first 2 weeks of the song?" "No." "What do you know?" "You know the hook and the beat." I could rap about doorknobs if I got a Pharrell beat. I was like, and y'all wouldn't know any difference. I was like, "Oh, that doorknob song is hot." It's like, so it's not sex and violence. And if sex and violence sells, why is it not in country music? Why is it not in rock and roll music? It is about critical thinking. If it works, it should be working in everything. So I teach them to question, and I don't want you to believe me. You should be questioning me. You should go and research me. But when you look at it, the facts should line up with whatever you believe, though. You can't magically think things. That's why I couldn't. Obviously, I'm not a Trump supporter, but my issue with Trump supporters is not they supported Trump, it's that they don't critically think about what he's doing. And I was like, so if he says the virus is going to go away in 3 months and it doesn't go away in 3 months, he's a liar. He's lied to you. And then he act like he didn't say anything. Well, I never said that. He did say it on tape. It's like my main thing is when you teach critical thinking, I need you to be able to not fall for the okie doke, because that has been a problem for us for so many years. Is that if you sound good and you seem believable, we'll follow you sometimes, or we'll do what you ask us to do. I need you to look at the background. Why? And I'm gonna end with this part. The perfect thing is TV. So I asked the kids, "Why do you think they're showing you that?" He said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Because TV is one of the most costly mediums. So it costs to put someone on TV. So if they're putting this video on where somebody's shooting somebody and killing somebody, or misogyny is all over the video, why? There is a purpose to it. And you have to ask yourself, why am I seeing this? Why is somebody paying to see that?"
This is really a powerful piece because, when you talk about how these systems are set up, and you know that you're able, as one person, to come from a neighborhood where there was a lot going on, right?
Yep.
Give me some. Do me a favor. Talk to us about how DC was when you was a kid and why you saw all those murders, because people don't realize DC was the capital of murder.
Yeah, so coming up, crack hit our neighborhood probably around 84, 85. And when you add poverty with a way to make money, it's a mixture. It's very, very dangerous. And so kids who had nothing all of a sudden had a chance to make 2 or 3 grand a week selling crack or selling weed or selling. I at 15, even though I didn't sell drugs, I knew how to cook an 8 ball. I knew how to make the 300, take the weed bags and break down to dime bags. I knew all that stuff because I was around it. And so watching that kind of violence early on, you realize, man, either I'm going to become that or I need to find a way out of this. And unfortunately, a lot of kids didn't have my mom as a mother, because my mom was a no joke, didn't play. And you hear a lot of that from people. I'm talking about my mom said she would turn me into the police herself. She was like, and I'm not coming to see you. And I'm not paying for a lawyer. And so I was just like, I'm
Yeah.
your only child though. She said, yes, and I taught you right from wrong. And she said, and if you know my mom don't bluff. And so she was like, so if you decide to make that decision, you on your own. And so then I had to go like, ooh, all right. If I'm gonna sell drugs, that means, and everybody knew, so everybody got caught at some point. But their mom was right there to bail them out and to help them out. I wasn't gonna get that. So it taught me early on to make critical decisions then, but it also gave me this almost like PTSD mindset where I was on edge all the time because I was worried about what's that guy doing? What is he doing? Can I have my back to the wall? Can't send my back to the door? All that kind of crazy stuff. So it was growing up in DC was rough, man. It was during that time period, it was when you lose 9 friends to murder in a 5 year period, that's not
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah, it's what I struggle with is the fact that people have acted and supported as if it is normal.
Yeah.
Even what's currently happening in Chicago right now, we know that it's the capital of black on black youth violent crime and more murders. Now, we still know that historically there's a group of people that's supposed to be policing the streets.
Mm.
Yeah, see, so then you go to New York and you think about what happened there, and then you go to Chicago, then you go back to California, and then you go to all these urban, hotspots, and then you wonder, hmm, the hand that rocks the cradle is still rocking the cradle, right? So if we could get to them early with the critical thinking, what impact do you think you're having for them as a teenager? And then if you can get them to critical think as a teenager, what impact are you having on them as they move into adulthood? Talk to us about those two
That's a great question.
strategies.
Those are great questions. As a teenager, I explained to them because of where you live, you don't have many chances, unfortunately. So you don't get a chance to mess up like Billy does in the suburbs where he get caught, selling some weed at school, or he can get caught, smoking drugs and he'll get slapped on the wrist and he'll go home. They'll try to send you down for 2 or 3 years. And you just don't have the opportunity to make that back up. And for example, so now I'm a financial planner. I have my Series 663. I didn't even know this job was available to me growing up, that I could be a financial planner. And you can't have anything on your record, nothing. They won't hire you. And so if I messed up in school, when I was in high school, I couldn't get hired for this job. And so we try to get them to understand that it's not fair to have to be able to critically think at your age. You should be able to mess up and make mistakes. Unfortunately, if you want to be successful, if you want to make a lot of money, if you want to live a lifestyle that you can be proud of, you have to decide making those decisions right now. That means sometimes your friends are going somewhere and you know they got stuff in the car, you can't go. When you're hanging out on the block, sometimes you gotta go inside. You gotta make different decisions because you're trying to go to a different place. Now, once they become an adult, now you can sit into a place and you can be a change agent because you now understand how to see, lack of a better term, you can see the matrix. You can see the numbers and stuff going up and down. And you can
Hmm.
see it like, I am not going for that. And
Yeah.
I'm off. So oftentimes I've been in corporate spaces, I understand the game already. I understand when I walk in the door, some of y'all think I'm stupid. I walk in the door, some of y'all are planning to try to set me up. Now, that's not everybody, but that's it. If you've been in the corporate America long enough,
You
you've
should
seen it
know.
happen to you. You've seen it happen to you.
Right.
So you have to be ready for those people. And for those people who are not about that life, you can be friends with them. You can work with them. But if you go in there blind, thinking that everybody's gonna be your friend, that's a mistake. And being that's not critical thinking. And you have to pass it on. And if you're critically thinking about things, you need each other. So if I see you, Dwayne, at the water cooler, and we have the same mindset, we know we can't be open about helping each other out. But on the back end, I'm gonna support you. You're gonna support me because we understand that we get stronger together.
Right. This is so good, man. We got about 10 more minutes left on the show. See how I told you it was going to go fast.
Yeah, definitely.
And the fact is, you took something that was a coloring book, created a actual book, physical book, that's now created an organization, to make a difference in the lives of our young people. And I had my conversation today with the writers was the fact that number one, as a writer who's writing a book, you got to know that what is your book for? Like, what is it
Hmm.
going to do?
Yep.
And what are the industry? What you are an industry now. So what are the businesses around your book? So you might think, oh, the book was $9.99, but if the book got you a $9,000 contract, does it matter that it was $9.99, right?
Exactly.
If it got you, like you said, you were in a certain spaces, and I'm sure you play in spaces where you're just how you walk across the floor is criticized, right?
Hmm.
Because you're not in the way that some people think you're not supposed to be here. So we only have like 10 minutes left. I'd like you to talk about the journey that you took from there to here. And if you were telling someone who is going to write a story, a children's story, what kind of like insights can you give to them in reference to their stories, writing their stories and putting it out there and making it where it does a duality? It's not just something for entertainment, but in a way it's edutainment, right? You're educating and you're entertaining and you match them together. Talk about that.
Well, I think you should probably write your passion and write your passion with the understanding that you have an audience you're writing for. And when I did all my books, I do extensive research. I look at covers, what color I should be using, fonts, what the best sellers are doing. I make it my business to know what the best people are doing. So I can then duplicate the same, not the same kind of book they have, but the same principles they're using for success. So when you're starting to write your ideas down, you definitely want to, first of all, finish. I went to so many authors who are writing a book and writing a book and writing a book. Finish. Stop editing everything, try to make it perfect. Finish it. Make sure that you understand that when you finish it, who you're marketing to. Because writing a book, there are three different levels. There's writing a book, there's making it look professional, and then there's actually marketing the book. So all those three phases, you need to understand how that works and how it's going to benefit you. Now, writing that book, as you said, Dwayne, earlier, can branch off into other things. So I got a speaking engagement with Merck Pharmaceuticals on Monday that I'm getting paid for. I've done other speeches that I'm getting paid for to do speeches. Now, I don't say I'm the best person sometimes when I'm out public speaking, but I think I have a message that people want to hear. And you can't limit yourself based on your fears or things you don't necessarily want to do. Whatever God brings to you from that book, you want to explore those things. And the more that you follow your passion, the more energy you have for it, the more people can connect with you. Your story is important. What you're trying to do is important. Other people are going to feel what you're trying to do if you're being genuine and being authentic. So when you got your book idea, you finish it up, make sure you are looking to be the best person in that field. You may not be today, but that should always be your goal. So you can branch on to these other things because a lot of people look at people like an Oprah or a Will, and I can never do that. They're just people too who have a serious work ethic who follow their passion. There is no reason why you can't duplicate that. Now, you can't duplicate what they did because they're following their passion, but you can do it in your own field and what God put you here to do. And that could drive you to get the same success or even more if you follow what God tells you to do or your own purpose.
Wow, man. Purpose, it always it keeps coming up because it's passion, power, and purpose.
Yes,
Those
sir.
are my three, those are like three little pieces of my engagement when I'm doing my workshops. And one of the things I talk about is this idea of passion. That's how Passion to Profits TV came out.
Hmm.
And now I'm thinking, hey, maybe I should say, instead of write your story, write your passion. I should
Hmm.
borrow that from you. I'll send
Hey,
you. I'll send you a royalty,
hey,
22
man.
cents.
No, you got that one. That's a
I can have that one.
that's a
I can have
brother. That's
that
a
one.
brother to brother.
Oh,
You
you
got
get
that
you
one.
said, well, give it to me. Okay, okay. You give, and the shall be given unto you. I got
There
you.
you go.
I got
Actually, and
you.
I believe in that format too. I
I
believe
know
that.
you do. I
Yeah.
know you.
So
Like I said, we had a conversation way before this day, and it was like a brothers united. It's like, wait a minute, we were united because number one, under our passion is making a difference in these lives, and then another thing is inside that is making a positive impact, right?
yes.
And so your books are making impact. Sabrina asked, she said she loves the Princess Brianna storybook, but what's next for the Princess Brianna? Is she going to be put on TV? Is she going to be you're doing animation because I remember we talked about that earlier. Tell us what's getting ready to happen with that, and what's on the horizon, and what else? What's next for Mr. Yaba Baker?
Good question. So Princess Brianna is looking to be made into an animated movie. So we're talking to people now about that. Her second book will be out 2022 probably. Super CJ is out right now, which is the boy book companion for Princess Brianna, where a young black boy is 12 years old. He gets turned into a superhero, and he has to save the world. One caveat: when he gets angry, he loses his powers. He has to calm down to get his powers back because we want to teach boys to make good decisions. You can't make decisions in anger. You got to calm down and think it through. Looking to make that to an animated series. And we have a couple of things coming out for. We do little animation shorts coming out too as well. And that's where we're at. We're also doing the outreach program that we're going to start back up once COVID kind of calms down a little bit. We'll get back out and start doing the outreach programs, the 8-week program for critical thinking and better decision making.
So let me ask you this, because we're in COVID. Have you been looking at doing something, virtually? Because I had also planned to do something back in March. It's called the Yes Summit, Youth Empowerment Success Summit, and we briefly talked about that too. Um, what's your thoughts on doing something virtually with our young people? Because I think there's some people in the chat, people watching, and people that's on Facebook and YouTube, and over on the Passion to Profits TV page. They're probably looking at, what could their kids get involved with, or how could they get their kids started on this path of understanding, just like me, and understanding the power they have to be and who they are, and all these different things, for critical thinking as well. Are you doing anything on virtually?
I'm looking to do something probably in the summertime.
All right.
I've been going back and forth because I think the program works best in person, but
Mm-hmm.
because of what we're doing, I think we have to kind of make adjustments.
Right.
And I just did a speech with a group of kids on Friday. Went really, really well. They received it really well, and so that was my concern. I didn't want, teens are hard to keep their attention sometimes.
Oh
And if
yeah.
I'm in the room, I know to raise my volume or
Right.
to call on
You can read
somebody,
the
that kind of thing.
audience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's harder to do that virtually, and I was concerned about the message not getting across. But definitely, I would say, just like me, world, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We're gonna make announcements there. So you can go justlikemeworld.com, or you can go just like me world on Facebook or just like me world on Instagram and follow us there, and we'll keep you abreast. And if you're interested in something like that, please send me a message because if there's enough desire for it, I'll definitely do it. So if you have a teenager between the ages of 13 and 15 who you are looking to um, get involved in critical thinking and better decision making, we'll put them through the 8-week program. Just let me know that's what you want to do.
Well, here's the thing. I sit on the board of Foster Care Shines, and we're doing a summit May 29th, and
Hmm.
that's coming up not too long from now. And you and I probably need to talk offline, but I believe that might be something that we can have you do a small, even just an example of whatever that would have, that would happen in that space. We work
Sure.
with kids who are aging in and out of the foster care system. They're aging, they're actually getting put in, or they're aging out, right?
Okay.
So, uh, one of our major focus is those that are aging out, because as you know, some of the people that are homeless, trafficked the most, abused the most on the street, and put into the drug system and the jail system come from these places of,
Yep.
you know, um, foster
In the,
care
in
and
the, in
some
the
of these other
program,
at-risk.
actually, and actually, we're saying the program, I designed it for Black kids, but it definitely it fits everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so we definitely can do something that caters to the foster kid group that can help them understand what decisions they should be making to help them. So a
Right.
lot of times when you're talking to them, they think you're talking at them. I'm
Hmm.
talking about you and how it's going to benefit your life because it doesn't matter what Dwayne thinks or Yaba thinks. At the end of the day, it's you. You got to deal with you. You want to be successful. You want to live a good life. What decisions do you need to make that happen?
So what's the final word from Yaba Baker, just like me world.com?
The final word is be purposeful in everything you do. If you are looking to find ways to inspire a kid, whether it be your niece, a nephew, your child, grandchild, make sure you get my books. I'm not saying it because they're my books. You can go online, look at the reviews from Amazon. You put my name in Amazon, Yaba Baker, you'll see all the books come up. You can go to justletmeworld.com to see it for yourself. Um, as Dwayne said earlier, my passion is helping. I want to make sure you have every tool as a parent to benefit your child, to make sure your child can be the child that can grow up and be everything that God has them to be. So stay in contact with us. If you have suggestions or you want to know how you get the book, again, justlikemeworld.com, where you go just like me world on Facebook or Instagram.
All right. Well, you guys heard it from a man right here, Mr. Baker. Thank you, Sabrina, for bringing us together because that is one of your friends, and she's definitely my
She's a
friend
great man.
now.
She's
And
a great person.
a beautiful person, and she says she's buying Super CJ right now. So y'all follow y'all follow this right here. I'm buying Super CJ right now for my 12-year-old Yaba.
I see.
You
I
are
see.
doing incredible work. Thank you. Okay. Tracy says, yeah, it does fit for everyone, right? Miss Gladys was out there. She was saying, wonderful job, wonderful work, Miss, very good information. Enjoyed this very, very
Thank you
much, or
guys.
very
Appreciate that.
much, right? Again, quote, write your passion, Yaba Baker. All right. So listen, y'all. We got to say so long, but not goodbye. As you know, I don't really say a lot of goodbyes. I say see ya, and you see you around, and so long. You and I, we're gonna have some more conversation in reference
Most
to
definitely.
this critical thinking for our young people, and maybe like I said, you could join me May 29th. But if not, I'm sure there's some other things that we can do. I want to reach out to my boy Joseph Williams out there in California because he has the YAP program, Youth Achievement Program. I think that there's some things that could go on right there in DC. Also, we have the DC chapter, what the Boys and Girls Club, and some of the things that they're doing. Interesting stuff. Hey, Vital. All right, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Enjoyed you. All
Thank you.
right, we getting some stuff. Hey, Sharon. All right, so people are really, happy for you coming on. I want to say thank you. My nephew in New York was listening in, Curtis Williams. Appreciate you, bruh. Checking in. Uncle loves you. Man, we got so much more work to do, and we got to help our young people see themselves better so they don't kill themselves
Thank you, sir.
and fall into the traps of the enemy, because the enemy continues to work no matter what, and
Hmm.
whether that enemy is spiritual or the dude
Physical.
right next
Hmm.
door. The fact of the matter is there's some people whose agenda has always been and continues to be against young black and brown boys, unfortunately. And like you said earlier, it's not just about black people; it's but you're pro-black, and there's no unapologetically black business owner, which I think is really important. All right. So again, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it. Great message and show. Thank you, Dwayne. Always a pleasure. Yeah, thank you again, Sabrina. Great conversation. I appreciate both of you. Awesome. All right, he's got to go, and I got to go because it's over 8:04. I usually go to 8:05 without getting, yanked off by
Right.
like the time police. They be like, I can't believe your show went that long over.
Right. Right.
But it's so funny, man, because they told me that like the show wouldn't last because people won't watch for an hour. I think they was wrong.
I think it's wrong
Because
too.
I get people like you, man, that pour their heart out and put some information out there for people to, really, really kind of think about what's going on. So looking forward to what's happening with Super CJ and
Thank you,
what's
brother.
happening with Princess Brianna and what's happening with the animation. And man, let us know when it happens so we can be part of the test group or whatever it is that you need, man. And
I
you
got one
got
too.
me
I
in your
got,
I'm in your database now, so it's brother to brother. So all you
yes,
got
sir.
to do is reach out and call me. All
Not a
right.
problem. We'll
All
do.
right,
Thanks
man.
for
I'm gonna
having me.
put
I
you in the
appreciate
green
it.
room for a minute. Don't go nowhere. I'll be there in a
Okay.
minute. All right, everybody. I want to say thank you so much for riding with me. You guys know that I love the energy when somebody knows what the heck they're talking about. They come on the show and they give you those platinum nuggets. My man Yaba Baker brought some platinum nuggets. He also gave you some education, some things to make you go, make you think about what is going on in this world of ours and how can we be a better impact? How can we make a better impact? What are we doing with ourselves? You know, I know that you've been gifted, but what are you doing with your gift? I know that you have all these talents, but what are you doing with those talents? I know you have all these abilities, but what are you doing with your abilities? You know, if you discover your tag, your talent, your ability, your gift, what are you doing in the earth with it? And I love the fact that he said, write your passion, right? If you're going to be writing and you want to tell stories, write your story. Every single person has at least 10 stories inside of them. If you need help with that, go to Dwayne-Ross.com, get your free consultation. I didn't bring it out today, but don't forget if you need some energy, NutriBurst is out there to help you out. If you need your finances hooked up, check out my man Keith Tucker for my econ. And again, I have my tax consultant is going to be releasing this new program where you can get tax services throughout the entire year instead of just once a year, and it will help you if you're a business owner. So, looking forward to that. Thank you again, Miss Gladys. Beautiful and interesting guest. Thank you, Mr. Ross. You're welcome, everybody. I gotta go. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. I want to say I'll see you on the next page, the next post, the next YouTube video, or that next live. See you next week. I got another one for you. You guys know that I have a children's book, right, that was done by Amanda Goddard. She's going to be here next week. She's already agreed to come talk to you about this My Nana's Boo Boo, where she had her mom have her lung cancer, had to get a lung transplant, and her son didn't understand what was going on. She came to class to write a novel. She left with a children's book on My Nana's Boo Boo, and it's been phenomenal for her. So look forward to seeing her and having her on the show. But as always, y'all take care. My daughter's getting married. Don't forget, that's happening April 24th. I gotta get happy. I gotta be happy. My baby girl, she gonna be getting away.